scrolls could be anybody, anywhere, anytime. And there is only a handful known to live on Earth. That's barely enough to what? You have no goddamn idea what you're talking about. There could be thousands of them, tens of thousands, and you would never know. Okay, Prescott, let's play a little game of forest for the trees, shall we? Yes, scrolls can shapeshift. Yes, they're looking for a new home. But as you say, the only scroll contact has been Fury. That means there are allies.
Then where is Fury? All these other attacks, they mean nothing compared to this. This is the one that sets the world on fire.
No one would have believed in the early years of the 21st century. Our world was being watched by intelligences greater than our own. But as men busied themselves about their various concerns, they observed and studied. The way a man with a microscope might scrutinize the creatures that swarm and multiply.
Oh, there we go. Forgot to slide the mic up. Let's start that again. Welcome to the show, Exile Minds Podcast, episode number 52. Today, I hope you've had a lovely week. I did say that bit, but I forgot to put the mic up. Anyway, yeah, so you've had a lovely week, getting towards the weekend now. So, done a full smorgasbord this week, so back in business. I think I got all the technical things out of the way, and hopefully we'll be on Rumble today because I think I figured out how you multi-stream on that. But anyway, on with the show. Today we're covering ley lines, something not really covered a lot, but that's a bit of a British thing. Ley lines. There's a lot of people talk about sort of ley lines through the years, and it's a really old place, and there's a lot of the sort of buildings kind of line up on purported ley lines. So I thought maybe it's time we start looking at that, because I think there's something quite fascinating with this stuff, and I think it's a bit of a smoking gun of something else. So that's what we're going to do today. Ley lines. Let's just check the chat, see if we've got the sound. All the sounds coming through. Liz, thank you for confirming that. Hey, Daryl, nice to see you. So yeah, I forgot to put my slider up this time. I've got like 6 ways to mute, so to make sure I do them all. But anyway, we're back. We're in. I think I've got it. I'm becoming pro. So yes, let's get on with the show and cover the topic of ley lines. So what I did with this one, again, I've known a little bit about this stuff, and because we've got the option of speaking to an impartial AI these days, I like to bounce it off the AI, so because you don't get uppity about stuff, and it will say things like, "Oh, it's not mainstream, considered this, that, and the other, be critical thinking," but I do that anyway, and the computer obviously does critical thinking, so yeah, it's really handy. So today, we shall embark on a captivating journey that delves into the crossroads where the empirical science meets the mythical inquiry. That's why I've got a subtitle, Bridging the Realms, you see. So Bridging the Realms will be a thought-provoking show that unveils the fascinating connections between established scientific principles and the enigmatic realms of mysticism, ancient philosophy, and unconventional ideas. So join me, your host, Liam Martin, as we traverse the historical landscapes of scientific discovery, uncovering the often overlooked intersection where renowned scientists from Sir Isaac Newton and his alchemical pursuits to modern day physicists' musings have ventured into the unconventional territories beyond the traditional bounds of empirical science. Through compelling discussion and through, well, we're not been in interviews unless anyone wants to come on the show and stuff, and experts. We've always got James there, so we've got an expert. So that fits my script. So yeah, through compelling discussions, interviews, and experts and immersive exploration, the concept of bridging the realms invites viewers on a quest to understand the deep connections between sound, scientific principles, and mythical or esoteric realms. From the intricate patterns of cymatics to the elusive mystery of ley lines, the Earth energy grids, this episode will try to peel back the layers of the conventional thought, embracing curiosity and critical thinking. Of course, follow where the information goes to explore the uncharted territories of human knowledge, discover the surprising parallels between visible sound, vibrations shaping matter in cymatic experiments, the proposed spiritual frequencies along ley lines will engage with these complexities of the historical figures, dual pursuits of scientific inquiry and mystic exploration, unraveling the human quest for understanding the universe's hidden dimensions. So in this episode, ley lines, the Becker Hagens grid, and bridging the realms, we shall go from the, we're going to have a look at cymatics, and we'll aim to foster a balance. Okay, a balanced discourse between challenging the boundaries and conventional scientific thinking while upholding the principles of empirical inquiry, critical thinking. So through this engaging and thought-provoking episode, viewers are encouraged to ponder, as always, do your own ponderment, the vast tapestries of human knowledge where science and mysticism coverage, offering a broader perspective on our world and its unexplored mysteries. So join us in this episode as we embark on an illuminating journey, transcending boundaries and embracing a rich tapestry of human curiosity and exploration. It's me being an explorer. That's what that means. I mean. Anyway. Yes, so let's do it then. Let's get started. So let's first things first. I've got my little script here, but we'll get a page up. So you don't have to stare at me the whole time. Right, let's have a look at this then. Oh, it's the one thing I didn't get ready. I got so many things ready. I made 2 dinners ready, one for tomorrow, one for today. But I forgot to add in this ley line. Here we go. Where are we? That's the one. Oh no, that's not the one. That's the one. No, that's the script. That's the one. It says ley lines everywhere on my thing. Here we go. Here's an image. Right. And Daryl, yeah, she mentioned about the eyes look like they were twinkling. They're doing it again, look. I've realized what it is now. I get reflection off the lights, but also if you notice the background behind me is white. So when you do the background removal green screen thing, it takes out certain colors. Like you see on my shirt, it's taking out some of the darker bits. I tried a blue sweater yesterday and it just completely disappeared. So that's what it is. It's because it's white behind me. Look, Daryl. It makes your eyes twinkle a bit. But if I go into a reader mode, if it will do it. Oh, this page hasn't got a reader mode. Damn it. Sometimes you can just blank it out, make it black. But anyway, that's the mystical explanation of why I had twinkling eyes on a few episodes. But I don't mind. Having a bit of a twinkle in my eye. Anywho, just a little side note there. Look great and scary at the same time, yeah. Or when we get on different pages, if there's a reader mode, I'll put it on and then it'll be black in the background. I used to use black as my background color, thinking, oh, shadow behind me will be a perfect green screen. But then, obviously black, when I open my mouth, it looked like my mouth was a black hole. If you look at some of the earlier episodes, my mouth looks like a black hole, like a void, because it's just took everything out for the video effects. But anywho. Let's have a look. Let's go ancient-wisdom.com. These are a really good website, actually. It looks pretty nifty. And it reminds me of you've got that ancient-origins and ancient-code. So I might add these to my little website of ancient things because ancient code and yeah, those two, I forgot now. Yeah, they're pretty good websites I use quite a lot. So here's another one, ancientwisdom.com. I didn't know about this, but they've got a feature on ley lines. So hey ho, they've got a few good things actually in the side panel. You know, altered landscapes, the Eleusinian mysteries, archaeoastronomy, the oracle centers, the world grid. So they were talking ley lines, no doubt, geodesy. But anyway, let's see what these got to say, and then I'll read some of the script for you that I bounced off with the computer because it's pretty all right. Like I say, he's a good person to talk to. So I'm talking to a smart person that's not got any politics going on. So it's really handy. But anyway, ley lines. Let's get to it then. So ley lines, or Hellige Linen, as it's known to the German, as fairy paths. So the German call them fairy paths, ley lines. So it's not like, you know, it's not just an English thing or just a couple of Irish folk just invented it. No, it's the thing in Europe and probably across the world, but which we'll get into. But yeah. So Hellige Linen, as the Germans, fairy paths. To the Irish, the dragon lines. The Hellenen linen is for the Germans. They call them fairy paths in Ireland, and dragon lines to the Chinese. The spirit lines to the Peruvians, and song paths for the Australian Aborigines. And so it goes on around the world. So it's like, hang on. We've got it in the Celtic stuff, which is like, you know, sort of Western Europe. Okay, so we've got them as fairy paths. The Germans have got them as a Hellige Linen, which I suppose means a similar sort of thing, and dragon lines for the Chinese, spirit lines for the Peruvians, and song paths for the Australian Aborigines. And of course, they're famous for using song, which is sound, which is frequency, which is vibration, which this show ties into. And yeah, and I don't know much about the Aborigines in Australia, apart from they have the cave paintings and wall art, and it tells the story of stuff, and they have song that goes with it. I happen to know that they have the song that goes with it, and the song is supposed to be just as important as the story and the visuals. All goes together, which then makes me think about the previous episode we did on the Box Saga about ancient Finnish family getting this language from nature, which was supposed to be perfectly harmonic, and so you couldn't really lie in that language because the tone would be off. And it's supposed to help superconductivity in the brain, so help the plasticity. So might be worth another look looking at the Box Saga actually, because it's still unclear to me whether that is a novel or whether it's supposed to be a real thing. And I wrote to the authors and I wrote to the publishers to ask if I could do an audiobook of it, and neither of them got back to me, which kind of makes the story look true because only a few people knew about it. The one living guy in the family, you know, claimed that everyone was getting killed off. And he's passed away now anyway. So anyway, side note. So ley lines. Let's have the read up then, because it's let's say it's come up all over the world. So let's try and define it then. Most cultures have traditions. Oh, there's Pat in the chat. Before I go on, Pat in the chat. Lots of buildings and monuments on the crossing sections of ley lines. That's what I said, Pat. Yeah, because I speak with the AI, you know, to get an impartial idea with some of these things. And yeah, that's what I said, the intersecting nodes. But then I noticed a lot of them are in a line as well. They're not necessarily on every single node you could pick, but some of them are. And I'm wondering if, you know, maybe it's too powerful with too many crossings, or maybe they're special and you're like, oh, you're only allowed to build, you know, maybe only certain people are allowed to build on them or whatever. But yeah, there's loads in lines, but we'll get to that. But yeah, good shot, Pat. Good shot, kid. I think you got him. Hey, I really enjoyed you on Jess Road the other day. Caught you on Jess Road. That was fascinating, dude. I wish I missed the monk story though. I think I got part of that, and then like right at the end of it. So, in fact, I'll have to get you on my show, Pat, and that would be a great way for us to catch up as well, because it's been a while. And I'm going to get into crystals this year. I've decided, because that amethyst still works for my dreams, you know. And you get crystals a heck of a lot cheaper than me. And I'm coming next year, Pat. I'm finally getting my passport. I'll have it in about 3 weeks. So finally, and by hook or by crook, I'll get over to you, Pat, and we'll get to that shop, and I'll just pick. So I'll find that one that just frequencies the crap out of me, which kind of ties into today's show. But yeah, you're welcome, Pat. You're welcome. It was great. You're a fascinating guy. Crystal guy, but not at all a hippie. It's brilliant. Woodworker biker. What more do you need? Practical skills. Anyway, let's get on with this show. Ley lines. So, most cultures have traditions and words that describe the straight, often geometric alignments that run across ancient landscapes, connecting both natural and sacred prehistoric structures together. Usually the names are given to represent these invisible lines, and they're translated to the equivalent of spirit, dream, or energy paths. Dream paths. I didn't think about that either. Dream paths. Plot thickens. However, apart from the physical presence of these sites themselves, proving the presence of a connection between them is something that researchers have found notoriously elusive. Some researchers, not all of them. Yeah, but it is hard to connect these things together because obviously mainstream science can say there's nothing, no, whatever. But oops, press the wrong button. Yeah, but there is more to this stuff, and you got to remember that mainstream science it doesn't mean that all the other things aren't true. You know, I mean, look at the real magic, Dean Radin. That's so academically referenced. There's odds against chance of 100 octodecillion to 1. The annual statistics meetings would say we should be accepting this, but still not. You know, if it was anything other than magic. So anyway, yeah. So science. The point is, just it isn't the be all and end all. You know, and we're going to get into a bit of that as well. You know what I'm saying? But anywho, yes. So, however, apart from the physical presence of the sites themselves, proving the presence of a connection between them is something that researchers have found notoriously elusive. But history needs rewriting, so it might not be so elusive. But moving on. Amongst the widely differing and often simplistic theories that attempt to explain why ley lines and landscape alignments first appeared, the following theories probably say as much about us now as at any time in the past. Yet we are bound to acknowledge and respect the following writers' opinions and conclusions as they and the following few are giants upon the shoulders in the field of study as it currently sits. Yeah, sitting on the shoulders of giants, you have to do that. You have to do that. And yeah, you've got to give people the kudos. That's why we reference and put the links in the descriptions, because if someone spends 30 years on this, you know, whatever findings they get, then we can take that and run with it. It's like a relay race, you know. Then you ain't got to spend like 400 years studying something. That's how it works, you know, work together sort of thing. So we'll go on and read some of this website then. And I'll jump into my script because it's the same names are going to come up with. Okay, so the definition of a ley line is, even though the term ley line was originally conceived by Alfred Watkins by 1929, he has described the use of the name ley as ley and referred to the alignments as old straight tracks or archaic tracks. There's a little quote here. It is quite useless looking for existing fragments, however old, of roads which may remain from the first track, although, as we shall see, some bits may form useful indications of its site. The changes from early days have been so many in a matter of roads. When it comes to the matter of roads, there have been a lot of changes. We must therefore clear our minds not only of what we think about roads, even Roman ones, but of our submisses and begin again. So this guy's saying basically, although we don't really want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, the word road is a bit loaded, and this topic needs fresh eyes. So it's kind of saying, right, throw everything out you think you know about roads, and let's go back and think about what paths are and trails are. Because of course, like say in Britain at least, well, in a lot of Europe, Romans built roads and they built them in straight lines. But they built them inefficient. They built them to be efficient from getting from wherever established cities are and towns are to others. So a lot of the time they tried to build them as straight as possible. So our old pathways may have fell into disrepair and then not been used anymore because you've got these nice straight, get there faster Roman roads. unless, do you know what I mean? Unless you particularly want to use the side routes because you know about things like ley lines. So a lot of those ley line trails across Europe have probably disappeared because Roman roads, they would have fell out of favor, I would think, compared to Roman roads, which are straighter and nice and solid and stuff. I only just thought of that, actually. So that's a good point. So, yeah. The current definition of a ley line, according to Wikipedia, says ley lines are hypothetical alignments. A number of places in geographic... The hypothetical alignments of a number of places of geographical interest, such as ancient monuments and megaliths. Their existence was suggested in 1921 first by the amateur archaeologist Alfred Watkins, whose book, The Old Straight Track, brought the alignments to the attention of the wider public. This explanation by no means completes the modern definition of a ley line, as we cannot say, for example, that all the alignments of stones are ley lines, right? Just because that's true. Just because somebody builds something here, here, and here, you can draw a line to anything, can't you, from one place to another, and then link it to another, and say, look, there's a triangle. But it's like the old joke. You can trick someone at the pub sometimes and say, I bet you $10 that if you give me 3 darts, I can make them land in a triangle every time. Do you know what I mean? If they're drunk enough, they'll go for it. And you just throw 3 darts. As long as they will stay in the dartboard, you're going to get a triangle, aren't you? Because there's 3 points. It has to make a goddamn triangle. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so just because things are lined up, it doesn't necessarily mean it's some significant alignment. However, nor does it follow that all sites are aligned deliberately, even those that appear to have been. Right? Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the case, just because things are not. Okay, right. Alfred Watkins, and the modern founding father on the subject, created the first basic set of guidelines in order to describe ley lines, according to his perception. As we have learned more about ley lines, so we have had to adapt these original guidelines in order to explain our findings, whilst keeping the context of Watkins' original ideas. So that's pretty cool. That's actual science. Now, you slightly adapt it as you discover new information. You follow where the information goes. That's what you're supposed to be doing, instead of having a theory, either your own or an established one, and trying to make the data fit into that box. That's not the way to do it. You're definitely going to fudge it if you do that. So even if you're really confident about your theory, no, not good enough. That's why you can't you can't try facts in court. You can't try a fact in court, believe it or not. That's why you have to have a judge to make a determination. Because even forensic evidence isn't 100% it's fallible. So no matter what evidence you present in a courtroom, it's not actually being tried on that, right? Because you've got your subjective filter, and science isn't perfect. So even forensic evidence isn't technically tried in court. That's why you have to have a judge. So really, it's just a convincing game. Isn't it? It's just a hearts and minds campaign. All courtrooms. If you think about it. Anyway, a little side note there. But yes, so let me just like this. Right, okay. Alfred Watkins, modern father. Right. Ley markers. The following... I'm going to have to take a quick break in a minute on the radio clock, but I'll quickly read this bit. Ley markers. The following is natural and man-made features were suggested by Watkins as a reliable ley marker. Mounds. These are the things that give a clue that these might be ley lines in this area. Mounds, long burrows, cairns, cursus, dolmens. Might have heard of some of these. Standing stones, mark stones, stone circles. That comes up. Hengers. Water markers. Water always comes in. Whenever somewhere weird, there's always water. Vortexes, water. Water always comes in. Running water under your property. Not good. That sort of stuff. Water seems to come in. So water, that includes moats, ponds, springs, fords, and wells. Can be an indication of the ley line stuff. A castle, beacon hills, churches, that comes up, crossroads, and notches in hills. and camps, as in like hill forts. So notches in hills. Well, that's an interesting one. That's quite unusual. But then that could indicate dwelling places, perhaps, or as we'll see later, I think there's something going on that somehow shapes the lands certain ways because of these ley line situations, and that's why you get certain features. Perhaps notches in hills is included there. Any true Watkinsian ley requires to have a start or finish point in the shape of a hill. From the map of the field work of Paul Devereux, concluded that all henges are likely going to indicate the presence of a ley line. All henges. That's what I'm assuming is French Paul Devereux for. So yes, right. I'm going to take a quick break then before we get off. Really kick off with this one. So let's drop this in. 4-minute ad block. Won't leave it too long. Drop that in there. And I'll be with you in just a few minutes after these short messages on the Exam Minds podcast with me, Liam Martin.
To begin at the beginning. It is spring, moonless night in the small town, starless and Bible black, the cobbled streets silent and the hunched quarters and rabbits wood limping invisible down to the slow black, crow black, fishing boat bobbing sea. The houses are blind as moles, though moles see fine tonight in the snouting velvet dingles, or blind as Captain Cat there in the muffled middle by the pump and the town clock. The shops in mourning, the welfare hauling, and all the people of the lulled and dumbfound town are sleeping now. Hush, the babies are sleeping, the farmers, the fishers, the tradesmen and pensioners, cobbler, schoolteacher, postman and publican, fast and slow asleep. The undertaker and the fancy woman, drunkard, dressmaker, preacher, policeman, the wet-foot cocker women, and the tidy wives. Young girls lie bedded soft or glide in their dream with rings and trousseaux, bridesmaided by glowworms down the aisles of the organ-playing wood. The boys are dreaming wicked, or of the bucking ranches of the night and the jolly Rogered sea. And the anthracite statues of the horses sleep in the fields, and the cows in the byres, and the dogs in the wet-nosed yards, and the cats nap in the slant corners, or lope, sly, streaking and needling on the one cloud of the roofs. You can hear the dew falling and the hushed town breathing. Only your eyes are unclosed to see the black and folded town vast and slow asleep.
Do you crave open, uncensored discussion about the unexplained? Look no further than the Troubled Minds Radio Network, the ultimate destination for those who seek the truth and aren't afraid to speak their minds. At the Troubled Minds Radio Network, we don't just talk about UFOs, the paranormal and the ever-changing, shifting news cycle. We dissect and debate them and encourage you to join the conversation. Join us as we gather to discuss the mysteries of the world, share your own encounters, and engage in thought-provoking conversation that leaves no stone unturned. Because the Troubled Minds Radio Network, your voice matters and all your ideas are welcome. Tune in, speak out, and explore the unknown. Don't miss out on the most candid, uncensored discussions about the unexplained on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP, Digital Broadcasting.
If you're into philosophical constructs, cosmic musings, and the probability of magic in our mysterious world, welcome to Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting.
This is James Salcedo, host of Salcedo Paranormal, and you're listening to the Troubled Minds Radio Network on KUAP Digital Broadcasting.
Hi, I'm Liam Martin of the Exile Minds podcast. You're listening to the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, the place where we dive into the depths of the unknown On the Troubled Minds Radio Network, you can join us and embark on a thrilling journey through worlds of science, the paranormal, and the enigmas that defy explanation. Tune in, share, let everybody know that you're listening to Troubled Minds, the place that captivates and takes you to the uncharted territories of knowledge. Sweet. Thanks for bearing with me there. I'll quickly grab a drink and have a little break and be all professional and stuff. I'll get me off screen for a minute. Right, yeah, I'll read a bit more of this then. So I'm going to look at my script now. I'll just leave this just so you've got something to look at. If there's anything interesting there. Okay, we'll zoom in a little bit here. Okay, yep, sounds good. Right, okay, good. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit. This is about spirit ways and death roads. I mean, come on. What does that sound like? But I'm going to just quickly read a bit of my script on this because I did this script. I asked the computer, so see what it says about it. So we're seeing that we had the basic kind of explanation. I'm going to get back up about what a ley line is, and so yeah, and so what I want to do is I just want to read a bit as to what the computer thinks about it. Impartial person won't be for long. Anyway, yes. So I spoke to the AI. We'll read some of the scripts, see what the AI's got to say about it, right? So I've asked it straight up. We've got the basics from the original. Okay, we've got plenty to go out. We've got a 2-hour show here, so let's see what it says with the computer there. So the AI came back with this. We've had the standard explanation, and the computer said, ley lines are believed to be alignments of various geographical landmarks, such as ancient monuments, natural land formations, and significant sites. Okay, so it's covered that bit good. And it's all across, form straight lines across the landscapes. These lines are thought to have spiritual or mystical significance in certain cultures and are often associated with Earth's energy. And it says various cultures, but I'd say it's global because if it's going as far as the Far East and it's going as far as the far west of Europe, well, I'm pretty sure Africans will be on that. In fact, I know Africans are on that because we did a Adam's Calendar show, which happens to segue into this actually a bit later on. But in the Adam's Calendar show, turns out on the 33rd parallel, bearing in mind you've got 33 vertebrae and 33 levels of masonry, on the 33rd parallel, which is always also the number for the Anunnaki, because they counted in 60. That's the 33rd parallel represents the Anunnaki, right? It represents, so the Adam's Calendar show. And we found out that ancient Egypt, where the pyramids of Giza are, straight line down, straight shot, all the way down Africa, right to South Africa, right near the bottom, you'll find Adam's Calendar, straight shot, all the way down the 33rd parallel, straight shot. And it passes through Great Zimbabwe ruins. It passes through the first place on Earth it's ever thought religious practice happened. And it cuts straight through Lake Albert, which turns out has a mystery around it because the Betwizy people were supposed to be 12-foot people with mystical powers that used to help out local tribes when they were in trouble, and they retreated into Lake Albert. And I only found that out because on the Google Earth image, if you zoom into Lake Albert, where that line cuts right through the center of it, it shows you structures underneath the water, really obvious, like red Tetris blocks. Is that the only reason I pulled that thread to see if there's anything going on down there? And found that out about these Betwizy people supposed to have supernatural powers, 12 foot tall, and unusually unquote unhuman-like heads near Uganda. So it's in Uganda. And I found it from the Ugandan news and articles. So it's so there's definitely straight line stuff going on. So I think it goes across the world, not just a few cultures. Okay, so going on from the artificial intelligence. AI, the concepts, he says, the concepts of ley lines gained prominence in the 20th century through the work of our aforementioned amateur archaeologist Alfred Watkins. It's pulled this straight out of Wikipedia, I reckon, and he's proposing these alignments. Okay, so not only have we got these alignments of buildings, he says it's proposed to align with ancient trade routes or paths. Remember the roads. It says think of them as roads as well. Okay, and over time, ley lines have been associated with various theories, including connections to spiritual energy, ancient rituals, and even UFO sightings. Well, if this is a thing, you know, maybe they're the UFO paths as well. You know what I'm saying? There's energy based. Maybe it's just easier to follow them, or better still, like pilots sometimes do when they get lost. You can follow roads, can't you? You can literally follow the street lights that are along the roads to get yourself sort of back on track. People have done that before. And of course, it goes, however, it's important to note that ley lines are subject to controversy and debate within the scientific community. Many scientists and geographers consider them to be a product of chance, human perception, or selective data interpretations rather than evidence of a mystical energy or energy path or ancient pathways. But again, they're saying it's a product of chance. But as we know from the magic show that we did with Mike, there's 100 octodecillion to 1 odds against chance with some psi experiments, and they're still saying no. 100. You know how big that number is? 100 octodecillion to 1. I didn't think it was a real number. I had to practice being able to say it. I had to look it up. And that's 100 zeros, man. There's 100 zeros. That's bigger than the known. That's a bigger number than the known mass. It's the biggest number I've ever come across, ever, even looking at space. And they still don't accept that. And the statistics people, International AGM for Statistics Association years ago, the president has said, we would accept magic as a thing, psi studies as a thing. If it was any other topic, it would be automatically accepted. There's so much data, so much odds against chance statistically. But because it's that, we're throwing it out. So I'm saying, same thing with this. Same thing with this. I'm just going to keep throwing it out, because for whatever reason. So, exploring the ley lines can be an intriguing journey into both cultural beliefs and geographical alignments, offering a fascinating lens through which to view the interconnectedness of historical sites and landscapes. Well, isn't that a statement? Offer a fascinating lens for which to view interconnectedness of historical sites and landscapes. And yeah, see how they're connected together. And I think it's pretty obvious now with the work of Graham Hancock that we've had an ancient civilizations, probably several. We've at least had one that survived the last ice age. You know what I'm saying? And seriously, let's be honest. If we've been around for 250, 300,000 years as Homo sapiens sapien with the same damn brain, all of our history starts from 14,000 years ago. I don't believe for a minute we were sat around for over 250,000 years doing nothing, just bored. You know what I'm saying? That ain't happening. We've got the same brains. We're the same people. You might not have had the same knowledge and understanding of this, but people get bored. People can figure things out. I figured out how to do scratching. You know what I mean? Years ago. I figured out how to DJ myself. I figured out how to use a rope dart. It's trial and error, don't you? And if you've got 273,000 years, whatever, if you've got hundreds of thousands of years, you get good, don't you? And you get to Carnegie Hall. Practice, practice, practice. Well, if you've got 200,000 years of practicing something, you're going to get good, aren't you? That's what cavalry archery was so just amazing. And it was archers used to be able to just hold all the have several between the fingers and just do these amazing feats. Is that Lars Anderson, who learned how to use the ancient ways of the bow and arrow? It's amazing. It can do a flip and shoot 2 targets, one in front, one behind. He shoots one and then does a somersault and shoots one behind him as he lands. You can get like that arrow. I think that's the guy that uses for the stunt for the arrow, because he learned how to do that stuff properly for real. So see that TV show Arrow, Green Arrow. That's the real guy that's really do. It's not CGI. There's a guy that can really do that. Can shoot. You can throw tennis balls and that, and then shoot them before they land and stuff. Come on, makes Robin Hood look stupid. So yeah, people can do amazing things, especially if I've had a lot of practice. So I asked this computer. I was like, so what about the buildings on ley lines then? Because I now remembering thinking about this topic. Then the south of England, there's a lot of Gothic cathedrals that are in a line, and some of them are supposed to be aligned with Greenwich. I said, is that correct? And the computer went, It literally, I've never seen it do that before. It went, you're referring to theories of certain Gothic cathedrals in South England, such as Salisbury Cathedral and Winchester Cathedral and others, are aligned along a ley line that extends to Greenwich. This theory suggests that there is significant religious structures were intentionally constructed along a straight line that connects them to Greenwich, which is the home of the prime meridian. Okay. It goes on. While these popular beliefs of folklore surrounding the alignments, the idea of these particular cathedrals were deliberately built to align with Greenwich is a bit contentious and debated among researchers and historians. Some individuals have tried to draw connections between these landmarks based on the geographical locations, proposing alignments as part of ley lines or, intentional construction paths. However, in academic and scientific circles, these theories lack substantial evidence and is often considered to be more coincidental than intentional. Many experts argue that the alignments of these cathedrals might be due to practical reasons or historical circumstances rather than a deliberate plan to connect them to Greenwich along a ley line. And then again, it does its disclaimer, you need to approach this with critical thinking. So, hello, Jess, popped in the chat there. Hiya. Coming on Monday, coming on Jess Rogue Show Monday. Monday. It's coming Monday. So, yes, but today, I'm not even going to tell you what we're covering. You'll have to tune in and find out. So, but today we're doing ley lines, in case you just joined us, Jess. Ley lines. So, yes. Okay, then. So they're saying, well, maybe some of these things are, perhaps just coincidence lined up. Thing is, though, I'm saying this. Here's some evidence that's key information that's not getting included into this. What is a Gothic cathedral? It's a stone building, right? It's a stone building meant for worship, right? That's a certain mindset, yeah. Like a meditative mindset is and a calm mindset is precisely what you need for the psi skills. Precisely, works better, right? So you're going in there, getting in precisely the right kind of state, yeah. The stone buildings, which have often got, funny pat there, crystalline structures inside stone, like granite, for example, is a really obvious one. But yeah, a lot of these stone Gothic cathedrals have got crystalline structure within the stone because of the way geology works, right? So they've got a spot where you're going to get in the right kind of mindfulness, meditative state in a stone chamber with crystals all around you, right? And then you have stained glass windows, don't you? Which is like a psychedelic experience. So I would argue all the recipes there, those things coming together, I don't know, there's something there for doing something special at those spots. And then I often link the psychedelic experience with I think that's what they're trying to still get at churches with stained glass windows and these stone, and they're like acoustically nice, aren't they, as well? So the speaker at the pulpit can be heard by everybody. Also, the church music, the organs can be heard nice, and choirs. So they're using sound all day long. They made it sound nice all day long. They're using frequencies all day long. They've got a stained glass window all day long, trying to induce a psychedelic experience because the Eucharist used to be a psychedelic. And that's the whole deal of the church from the beginning. It stamped out all the other religions that had a psychedelic sacrament because we're all goddamn pagans, right? Right from the start. The first ever pets we had was yeast. They're the first pets we had. We didn't have dogs first. No, we had yeast. We used to culture yeast because you can brew beer at cold temperatures with enough microbiome on your hands. As you find out in the Immortality Key, if you read that book. And then in the ancient Greeks, their entire Eleusinian mysteries are based on drinking the kykeon and honing these techniques so you could go through these, transitionary experiences and then you don't fear death. And he used to say it teaches you how to die well. You know what I'm saying? And it was so important. Even the slaves were allowed to do it. And it was like a 2-year pilgrimage. If you're going to do it seriously, you go 1 year, they tell you how to prepare your body, get in the right sort of mindset and, clean yourself out and stuff, and then come back the next year. If you could afford it. And there's a long walk as well. So there was some serious business. So I often argue the churches and the stained glass window and that are kind of trying to recreate it because once the church figured out how to make the psychedelic brews, it needs to get rid of the competition to monopolize religion, doesn't it? So that's why all the women got kicked out as witches if you knew herbalism. If you knew herbalism, you're a witch. You got to die. Because they needed to eliminate the knowledge of making this stuff and doing these things. Because what if we get enlightened? As we like to say, ascended masters don't pay taxes, do they? It's all about riding the wave. You know what? You're right. I used to know a guy that was well into Buddhism. He had his kind of mental challenges, and he was an alcoholic. And I think he was on no, well, not alcoholic. I think he was on some, dodgy drugs and that, struggling with drug problems. But he knew his Buddhism, and that's what he used to do. He just sit and read about Buddhism. And yeah, he always used, his catchphrase was "King of the River." Right, King of the River, riding the wave. And I often, when I've had troubling times and it's been really, really tough, man, I've just had to tell myself, I'm just a leaf in the river. And there's even an adage for it as well. And it's man plans and God laughs. As in, all good plans go to waste. There's even sayings for this. You've got to ride the wave. It's true. See, just wise, Pat. You're just wise. My own little personal Buddha. Anyway, ChatGPT. Right, let's what should we do then? What did he say this then? The idea I asked it about Baalbek. I says that in the one with Greenwich, crossing one that links up to Baalbek. Okay, and I lined it up actually, and there is one in that goes across Baalbek. I did have the Google Earth thing on, but I sacked it off because I didn't know how to draw lines on it and make them seeable. Plus, I didn't know how to measure it, make them straight and stuff. So sack that off, but we'll have a picture of some grids in a bit. Oreos have somatic patterns on them, if you've noticed, because they bring much joy. But yeah, Baalbek, it links up to one in Baalbek. That's another one that's on some like ley lining stuff and Lebanon, Baalbek, famous for having a really, let's get that picture up. Let's get Baalbek up on the old. Let's get a browser up, get Baalbek, Temple of Jupiter. Quick Google Images thing. I'll share the screen. Baalbek, most famous for the gigantically colossal stones in there. If you've seen it, look at this colossal stone, man. Like what? What's going on with that? They're supposed to be. They're estimated to be 1,000 tons. This massive. They've got these massive rectangular, really long rectangular shaped blocks, and one of them's like part buried in the ground at an angle. You get hundreds of people on it, loads of people on it. It's massive. It's estimated to be 1,000 feet, 1,000 tons, and it's built for the Temple of Jupiter, the thing, and just one that was been left. But if you notice, if you look at the Temple of Jupiter, which they say was built by the Romans, which is on ley lines, right? The Temple of Jupiter, its biggest blocks, its massive blocks, they're not on the ground. They're not at the base level, like put the heavy stuff on the ground. No, they've got these other bigger blocks underneath, and they've got 4 layers of them above ground that you can see. So it's like, hang on a minute, why are you putting the heaviest blocks halfway up the building? Why don't you put them right on the bottom? I mean, that's just to make the platform for all the big, massive columns that are going to go on it. So it's like, no, they've cut smaller blocks, built it up 3 layers, and then stuck these 1,000-ton blocks on top of that. So they built half a wall and then lifted up the blocks on top. It's not like they've just quarried them and just shoved them into place. No, they've had to lift them. They've had to lift them on top of these other blocks and place them in nice. Okay, so they made an effort to build something there. Yeah, I mean, some argue that they might have had some kind of concrete, even way back there. They might have had some. The Romans are built on top of something that was already there. Is the point? Okay, so now Romans had concrete, which is better than ours today, by the way. But Romans had concrete, okay, but they built on top of a more ancient structure, which is why this one's a bit weird. This one in Baalbek in Lebanon, and it's on the ley lines, and one of them points off from. There's 2 St. Michael's and St. Mary's ley lines that go through Greenwich, I think they call them. So yeah, I find this one odd because there's bigger blocks up there, and it gets us wondering whether they had some kind of geopolymer where they could do sort of cement pouring. And I've actually seen, I can't see it here. Let's try Baalbek. No, we'll probably never find it. There's a picture if you search on the internet of one of these where the corner is smashed off. And what's interesting about that is that you've got this corner, this big temple then, with really high block so far up. There's a bit smashed off, so you can see inside of it. And inside of it, there's what looks like a load of boulders smashed together and then melted together, kind of thing, or like some resin over it or something. So it does make it look like the interior of these really big blocks might actually be a composite. It might just be where they just put loads of boulders together and somehow cemented over the top of it, made a form or something, and then. But then you've got to move them, haven't you? Because one's still in the ground being quarried. Halfway in the ground. So we're saying it's been quarried out of the ground. But then how are they still moving them? Wouldn't you, if you're going to make a form and do it by putting boulders there and resin kind of around it, wouldn't you do it in place where you want it to end up, so you don't have to move it? It's not like you put a big concrete pad down for your new garage, but you do that at work and then take it home with you to put on your garden. You don't do it that way, do you? No. But who knows? Who knows? But anyway, moving on. Ley lines then. So let's get this image back up and we'll read a bit more of this. So I asked it about that one in Baalbek. And let's just see what its response was. Because I remembered that and I just wanted to sort of show the image of it. So ley lines extending out to Baalbek. There, they've got the Gothic cathedrals that some of them are lined up with. And then asked him about this thing in Baalbek. And I also said that isn't it? Although, okay, so if with this ley lines extending thing in mind, couldn't they? I said to the computer, I said, couldn't there be an explanation if the Earth has an energy grid? I was trying to get it up with the concept, and they're simply following this Earth energy grid, much like we've got a magnetic field, so it's not quite that wild. Sort of thing. And it says, the idea of an Earth energy grid is a concept proposed by some alternative and spiritual belief systems. It suggests that Earth has a network of energy lines or pathways that crisscross the planet, akin to a global energy grid. Proponents of this theory argue that ley lines, as well as various sacred sites, natural phenomena, and are interconnected through this energetic network. All right. That's what the notion is. So while this notion of an Earth energy grid is intriguing within certain spiritual and esoteric contexts, it remains outside the realm of mainstream scientific understanding. Well, we've got scalar physics, haven't we? That's been around for about 30 years, and that's not in part of mainstream science, and that is absolutely a thing. In fact, Kepler kind of used scalar physics, scaling laws to predict where the planets are going to be, and it was right. So we're not talking scalar physics, are we? And I think that's because it's high physics, man. That's next level stuff that we should be at already. But anyway, the scientific community generally does not recognize the existence of such a global energy grid, right? That's what the scientists say. Scientifically, the Earth does have its own magnetic field and various natural electromagnetic phenomena, such as the Earth's magnetic lines, for example, which is where I'm sort of rooting with, and interconnections between the Earth's magnetic field and solar winds, right? Yeah, affects other things. But it goes on to say, however, these phenomena are explained within the framework of physics and geophysics and do not necessarily correlate with the concept of an energy grid as proposed by some alternative beliefs. Yeah, but it literally said, but only within the framework of physics and geophysics. Well, perhaps we're not talking physics and geophysics, right? Perhaps we're talking electromagnetism. Perhaps we're talking about, like I say, the scalar physics or hyperdimensional physics. That's what we're talking about, yeah. And this isn't putting it in that box. It's not extending itself like the lines. It's not extending itself into these more complicated areas. And we know that hyperdimensional physics is a thing, and geometric shapes on celestial bodies is a thing, because look at the rings, the north and south pole of Saturn. Yeah, and Jupiter, I think it's got one as well. I know Saturn definitely has a hexagon. It's got a hexagon shape in the clouds on the poles, a hexagon shape. And so that's 120 degree turns to make, or 60 degree, depending on how you measure it. But yeah, it's making these 120 degree turns then at right angles to make a hexagon. The clouds are making 120-degree turns and then going in a straight line. So you get a hexagon formation in the clouds on the poles. And that's obviously something to do with something either emanating from the planet to create the hexagon, its tendency to want to be a hexagon, or something coming in. And it's happening at the poles. So something's coming out of Saturn or into Saturn at the poles that makes the clouds want to be a hexagon. You know? And then anyway, I've got to go for another break. Oh, it just gets annoying, doesn't it? And you kind of know there's something going on, and they just. But anyway, another little break. Let's try and stay professional. Exile Minds podcast with me and Martin talking about the ley lines. We'll be back in just a moment after these short messages. Please bear with us. Cheers.
Welcome to the Troubled Minds Radio Network on KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where we delve into the mystical, philosophical, and the cosmic in our quest to uncover the unknown.
I think I got a weird connection.
You're saying that this is one single cell?
It's not unprecedented. The ostrich egg is a single cell and it can grow up to 5 pounds.
Because we were almost impacted by Venus. This is all fully understood. And the astrophysicists have to look at this, and the people that are geologists, and all the is.
They supersized the common core, which, as it turns out, is disgusting.
Obviously, somebody's playing with us.
Yeah, they're showing off. Killing epidemiologists with the common cold. It is impressive.
I want to know who's next.
Police identified as contrived, but the computer went off the charge.
Maybe we can figure out who's next.
Normal human beings have 40 DNA memo groups, which is more than enough for a perpetuate itself. This at 200,000.
You did it. What was that? How did you have that?
It was September. He was part of the original 12-sign travel back towards humanity. He was banished for sympathizing with the fugitive sign tracking. The same fugitives who were in possession of the anomaly.
Why go to such lengths to protect a genetic defect?
I do not know. I would like a protocol suspension to travel when I can eradicate these resistors.
We are not prepared to deal with a readjustment of probability. There is a way that the fugitives are inconsequential. He poses minimal risk. We chose this time for a reason. A 99.9999% probability that we will succeed.
The boy had a 0.0001% chance of survival. Yet he did.
Is there something wrong with you?
1%. I'm experiencing something I do not understand. The idea of ending their existence consumes me.
They are insignificant. So, no.
Some people believe that crystals have spiritual properties and can be used to connect with the ancient civilization of Atlantis. They believe the crystals were once used by the Atlanteans for spiritual healing, meditation, and communication. Some people believe that the crystals can still be used for these purposes today. The Atlantis crystal power myth is the belief that crystals from Atlantis have special powers. This myth is often associated with the idea that Atlantis was a highly advanced civilization that was destroyed by a natural disaster. Some people believe that the crystals from Atlantis survived the disaster and can be used to tap into the power of Atlantis. Have you ever tried? Check out Spirit Magica Crystal Shop and use coupon code Troubled Minds, all one word, for 25% off your first purchase.
What's up, folks? Thanks for bearing with us. No break there. Back. Next Man's podcast. Your incredibly famous host, Liam Martin, aka the Mighty Rohan, aka or you, if you don't know me. So welcome back to the show, Man's podcast. I think it's episode 52. We're talking about ley lines today. The mystery of ley lines. I'm going to get into the Becker Hagens grid. And yeah, we're trying to bridge the realms between the mysterious, the mystic, and science. Because science and mysticalness go hand in hand. And I'm gonna prove it to you. I'm gonna prove it to you with something that you already know by name dropping someone that you already know. But we'll get to that. So just continuing then with the script, we'll just see what the AI said about it. It's going whatever. This spiritual interpretation science is not really been able to substantiate it, but I pointed out that, well, they're not looking at hyperdimensional physics, are they? And that's been around for so long. I've read a paper that the Russians did about that, like, what? At least over 10 years ago. It was a long time ago. It was Richard Hoagland was pointing it out back in the day when he was like really hot. And do you know what I mean? No, way back. Like 15 years ago, I read this paper about scalar physics that the Russians had put out. It was just normal mainstream stuff. So I'm like, where's that? Where's that? Where's all this? Energy weapons and such. And, you know, John Hutchinson effect and that, which probably needs a show itself. John Hutchinson effect, static fields, fire radio waves and microwaves into it. It makes matter act in a weird way. But anyhow, ley lines then. So I was trying to say, what about these extended ley line grids? Going, what if the ley lines aren't just, you know, emanating from England, or, you know, what if they go across the whole planet and it's not just some Irish folk and some Chinese folk and where else was it? In Germany. Maybe it wasn't just, you know, Europe and then China that thought of it. I reckon everywhere. I think everyone's doing them. We'll see. And I think we had an interconnected global culture anyway. So if there's a thing to this grid, like we talked about, you know, Jupiter perhaps and Saturn definitely has hexagonal cloud formations. And they're making those formations going against the rotation of the planet as well, by the way. So it's like they're really making an effort to be hexagons. You know? But anywho. So he's not having it, the computer, because it's having to do the stuff. But I said it's not that far out, considering that we've got magnetic fields and other things we've yet to discover, right? And it was like, absolutely. The concept of an Earth energy grid or other undiscovered phenomenon isn't entirely implausible, especially considering the vastness of our planet and the continuous advancements in scientific understanding. Say it makes a good point with this. It handles this well. It's why I like talking to a computer that's impartial. Check this out. Make me laugh. Our understanding of the natural world is constantly evolving. Yeah, it's constantly evolving. And there are still many things yet to be explored or fully understood, which is what I'm saying, right? While mainstream science hasn't confirmed the existence of an Earth energy grid as proposed in alternative theories, it's essential to maintain an open mind to possibilities beyond our current knowledge. I haven't seen much of that recently. Not much open debate in the last few years. The old science there gone a bit scientism. And I bring this up as well. Anyway, Earth energy magnetic field, for example, is a well-established natural phenomenon that plays a crucial role in various aspects of the planet's functioning. Okay? It plays a vital role in various aspects of the planet's function in magnetic field. So there could indeed be undiscovered or less understood aspects of the Earth's systems that might influence the planet in ways not yet comprehended by current scientific models. Yes, you have to look for the information, look to find things. If you find some funky information like this, you must follow the path. Stay on the path, because that's what's going to lead you to stuff. The path leads you to things. Don't waver. Going, but the theory's over here. You know, don't waver. Even the Bible says it. Keep on seeking. Don't stop seeking. Keep on seek. You haven't seeked enough unless you're disturbed. And then you'll marvel, or you'll be marvelous. One of them. maybe both. Yeah, you will marvel. So yeah, you got to keep seeking. Jesus shows those that show themselves and goes, see? maybe just speculating. But anyway, yes. So, well, that's what the computer had to say. Right. So we've did tag team with the computer a bit and nudged him around, and he came around and said, yeah, you got to be straight with your science and that. So, all right then, let's move on. Let's get onto this Becker Hagens grid then, because what I said next is obviously going here. I said, okay then, so what you can tell me about the Becker Hagens grid, as this is a proposed Earth energy grid. So the Becker Hagens grid, let's get a bit of a picture. Or in fact, I've got an image prepared. I remember now. I've got one ready. There we are. Don't have to have a little small screen thing. Right, an image prepared. Yes, the Becker Hagens grid for the video viewers. I've got a nice big image. So so I'll tell you the story of the Becker Hagens grid then. So while you sort of view the picture of the video, and then for the radio listeners, the Becker Hagens grid is also known as the Earth grid or the Becker Hagens planetary grid system. And what it is it's a theoretical concept proposed by two researchers, Ivan T. Sanderson, and later was popularized by mathematician and engineer Dr. William Becker and Beth Hagens. This grid system, bearing in mind that's first popularized by Ivan T. Sanderson, and then a doctor, William Becker, and then Beth Hagens. Doesn't say who that is, whether they're doctor, doesn't give him a title, but we've got at least one academic in there, that's come up with this Becker Hagens grid. So this is a grid system that suggests a geometric network of energy lines that are purportedly crisscrossing the Earth, forming a pattern resembling an icosahedron, which is a 20-sided polyhedron. Okay, so it's got an icosahedron, which is inscribed inside of a dodecahedron. So we've got two. So and a dodecahedron is 12-sided. So you've got a 20-sided object, 20-sided polyhedron, and a 12-sided polyhedron. That's some complicated, you know what I'm saying? That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about with scalars. That's the kind of thing we're looking at with like possibly Jupiter and definitely Saturn having shapes being shown in the clouds where there's some kind of energy there that's making it take that damn shape, right? So this grid system that's been proposed by Becker Hagens, first popularized by Ivan T. Sanderson, like I say, it's got a 20-sided shape inscribed within on top of a 12-sided shape, overlaid on top of each other. So icosahedron and a dodecahedron. These researchers proposed that various sacred sites, ancient monuments, and significant geographical formations align with these grid points. The concept gained attention in the 80s when Becker Hagens presented their work, suggesting that the grid system could explain the positioning of various cultural and historic sites around the world. They claim that the intersections of these grid lines represented areas of increased energy and potentially held significance for understanding of the planet's mysterious and ancient civilizations. And then we get the disclaimer from the computer. But yeah, because if you also look at ancient mysterious civilizations, ancient cultures that even are not so mysterious, they are all day long showing you flower life patterns, aren't they? Cedar life patterns. Yeah. They're showing you this kind of geometry all day long, embedded in all of the works. What was that? Oh, see James in the chat there. Hi, James. Dinner time. Oh, I got some chili cooking, Pat. You take it easy, man. Thanks for joining. And James just popped in. One in, one out, eh? But anyway, on with this then. Yeah, so the Becker Hagens grid, the ley lines. Yeah, so yeah, the sacred geometry is embedded in cultures all over the world, and I think this is where the rubber meets the road with this. I think, personally, with the sacred geometry, the scale of physics, which I can't really explain off the top of my head. It's been a long time, but yeah, it's a hyperdimensional physics basically, extra dimensions, higher dimensions, lots of stuff. It's going along the string theory thing. But anyway, this is more about the shapes and how things are toned. But I find it curious that when I look at this, though, if for those on the video, and I encourage you to look up the Hagens grid, because it's worth noting that it kind of, if you look at the lines and look how it's laid over the, the map of the world, so laid flat, it kind of does the continents do kind of follow the main lines. They follow the shape of it. It's as if the grid is almost shaping the continents. Like, for example, there's a kind of diamond shape that covers most of Africa. Okay. Well, more of a kite shape, where it's not, it's a bit offset. But yeah, it covers most of Africa. And I don't know. It's like, it's got the very general rough kind of shape. I don't know. A little bit. But even more so with South America, because that really does follow one of these triangles, like the bottom end of South America. Just kind of fit in this triangle shape. I don't know. Kind of sort of a little bit. I think might be shaping the continents, and I'll tell you why a bit later on. There's a cymatics thing I want to get into after we do this bit, because then you'll see why I'm saying shaping things. Okay, but going back to the civilizations, makes quite a grid. So on each parallel, then those lines that you have across the earth to navigate and stuff. So all the ones going north to south. So let me just count them across them. So there's, how many intersecting points are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, are they all going to be 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, across the entire planet, this Hagens grid, there's 5 intersecting points. There's 5 crossover points, 5, or nodes you could call them. There's 5 crossover points on every single parallel all across the Earth. And some of them are in the middle of the sea. So you're not building there, are you? But some of them are on land masses. And some of the main ones are on land masses in like significant places. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I mean, I look at Australia. It don't quite show it quite right, because the one in Australia, where Pine Gap is in Australia, it's right on that parallel on that line. And it's really near to a main node. Like, just a little bit south of it, I think. Or if you zoom in, I've looked at it before. I thought Pine Gap was right on one of them nodes. I heard it was, but on this grid, it doesn't look as if it's. But right up north, pretty central to Australia, and then north, is an intersecting node, and Pine Gap's right up there. Now, Pine Gap, if you don't know what Pine Gap is, Pine Gap's one of the most secure facilities on Earth in Australia, and it's basically, I think that, where the Montauk Point was where they originally did that Montauk project stuff. I think that they continued it at Pine Gap. And that's the modern version of it, personally, for various reasons. And I think that's why in Stranger Things, the TV show, popular TV show, that was going to be called Montauk Point. They were going to call it the Montauk Project to start with. Right, but they called it Stranger Things instead. And in Stranger Things, it shows you them do the thing in, the first season, second season, and then it gets shut down. But then we see, a trailer, look up at the scene at the end where in Russia, they've got the same thing going on, where they've moved it somewhere else. And I think that's what it is. I think they're saying, yeah, Montauk Project was happening in Montauk Point up New York. But now that's been shut down. That's all gone away. People kind of like, it went wrong, whatever. But then someone else is doing it. We just shifted it elsewhere. And why not shift it to one of the most super secure facilities on Earth? That's just for posterity, just to prove it. Yeah, that's Pine Gap. Oh, they bring TV shows up about it. No, I don't want the Pine Gap TV show. And I'll have to type Australia. Just so you can idea. Oh, there we go. Pine Gap, not the TV show. Here we are. Oh, check this out. Let's get rid of this image off the screen so you can get rid of the grid so you can see on the Wikipedia. Yeah, Pine Gap. So Pine Gap is a satellite observation base in Australia in Australia. It's called Australian Earth Station. I mean, why Earth Station? Why is it called the Earth Station? But it's also known as Alice Springs. You might have heard of this. It's southwest of the town Alice Springs. So Northern Territory in the centre of Australia, just like I said, is jointly operated by Australian and the United States since 1988. Well, that's right after the Montauk stuff was supposed to have been properly wound down by then, and that's when the book started to come out. I think in the 80s. Yeah, that's when the book came out. And that stuff's got winded down, and that facility got broken, according to the story. So, isn't it interesting that as soon as Montauk Point and all that's kind of broken, and then and they're letting people come and just take equipment, radio enthusiasts and stuff, take it apart. Isn't it interesting that then Pine Gap opens straight after? So I'm not saying that's what they're doing there, but it kind of looks like it. And there's a lot of reasons to think why. And as Derek, the Night Stalker, often says, I asked him about this, what he thought about it. And he always mentions water. And he says, find out if there's water nearby. This is, I bet you there's water nearby. And I thought, it's Australia. It's in the middle of the desert in Australia. There's not going to be any water nearby. And I zoomed in on it and I found there was a lake nearby. And it looks like a stream, like natural river or stream that goes right under it as well. Or to the side of it a bit. Unless that's just piped it in. But yeah, there's a lake nearby. And I zoomed in on Pine Gap and saw that it looked like they've got these, you can see it in the picture on Wikipedia. It looked like it's got these 3 dark rectangles just away from the facility. And I think they're like water storage. Well, I think they're water pools. Like 3 little mini rectangular lakes that you've made. Because I suppose you need water storage. I don't know what that is. But I've zoomed in on it on Google Earth and it looks like they're 3 massive dark swimming pools. So I don't know what's that about. I don't know. I mean, obviously you're going to need water storage, but don't you usually have them in big tankers, on stilts? I don't know. Or deliveries. But yeah, Pine Gap, it shows you on Australia. Oh, that's the thing about it. Yes, it's on that parallel on the Becker-Hagens grid. Sorry, no, it's not on one of the nodes. It's that it's central to the landmass in Australia. That's it. So if we get this Becker-Hagens grid back up, the image over the top. So Pine Gap's right dead in the center. I thought it was much further north. But if we get the image up for the video viewers, yeah, it's pretty much on that line then. And it's right in between. It's right in between 2 nodes. Okay, I wonder if that's, oh my goodness, actually, it's right in between. Yeah, it'd have one to the top of Australia, one to the south of Australia, then there's one to the east of Australia and one to the west. So it's right central between 4 of them on the cardinal points as well. So that's interesting. The Pine Gap's right there. I wish I could show you my mouse actually over the thing, but I'll turn that off. But anyway, yeah, you can kind of see it. Yeah, if you follow on the right-hand side of the image, not the very first line, the next one after that, that's where Australia is. And where those nodes are, the 2 red ones either side and then 2 white ones, Pine Gap is right slap bang in the middle of those. Right in the middle of all 4 nodes, and it's pretty much the central to the landmass of Australia as well. So for us, that's pretty notable. But anyway, moving on. So we've got this Becker-Hagens grid, and just so you know, Sir Isaac Newton, because I hit the computer up with this one, I was saying, you know what? So while it's not readily accepted, don't you find it curious that the Becker-Hagens grid does, however, seem to have many megaliths and ancient structures on the site, especially on the intersecting nodes along the lines, and some of the nodes appear to be shaping the Earth masses. And it's sort of said, try and be careful about correlating the grid with the placements of megaliths, ancient structures, and intersecting nodes. It says it's true, and that is quite an intriguing observation made by the proponents of the theory. Okay, because there is loads of structures, loads of them, dozens of them that are along the lines, and and some of them are crossing straight over nodes. It says it's interesting to note the patterns and alignments in geographical features, ancient monuments, and cultural sites that seem to coincide with the suggested grid lines. And bear in mind that word coincide, that's where we get coincidence from. Coincidence. So when you hear someone say that's just a coincidence, what the word actually means in its etymology, it means that's significant. A coincidence means a significant connection. But when we hear the word coincidence, we hear it as having the meaning of to dismiss it. And that's not really accurate when you break the word down to coincide. Coincidence, it coincides. It indeed does coincide. That's what it really means. But anyway, yes. So yeah, ancient monuments, cultures, and sites that seem to coincide with the suggested grid lines. The idea of the Earth's land masses follow the proposal polygonal shapes of the grid if proven true, would indeed challenge our understanding of the planet's formations and the arrangement of the continents. It could potentially suggest that there is an underlying geometric or energetic principle influencing the shaping of the Earth's land masses and the positioning of significant sites. Well, in fact, that the ancients, if there was an earthquake, ancient Greece, they would build on top of it, where the ground's been shook. Like the gods have shook the ground to build it, like it's a special site. But I think it's because, personally, I think that might be more because it releases gases. You get higher. The oracles can get higher, huffing the gases, and I think that's why they built some of the temple stuff there. Not all temples are on fault lines, but those that are, it's interesting that, and some of them have recently in the last few years been discovered where they didn't know there was on fault lines, and then earthquakes have later shown that actually some of these other temples were built on fault lines that we didn't even know about, because some of these gases come up, they could be quite psychedelic, probably quite toxic as well. But these oracles were always really young, weren't they? Well, young, not like kids, I don't think, but they were young women, and I don't think they're lasted very long. So maybe that was the thing. Maybe it was the gases killing them, but it also gave them the sight. Drinking the kykeon and that, the fortified wines. I don't know. But anyway, moving on. So next, cymatics, because I think this is about frequencies and such. This is where we're getting onto with this. But I just want to point out that you've heard of Isaac Newton. It says there's something that you already know that kind of proves this stuff's got something to it, is that while science says things like, oh, that's just magical thinking, to be disparaging, we can see there's quite clearly some kind of extra hyperdimensional physics, some, hyperdimensional geometry going on, some complicated geometry going on here. And it is a thing with other planets, with Jupiter and Saturn. So why wouldn't we have representative polygonal shapes? That's what it is, I think. And Sir Isaac Newton, we've all heard of this guy, Sir Isaac Newton, the world's most famous alchemist, in this from discovermagazine.com. World's most famous alchemist. He had the largest alchemical library of his time. So this guy who's got, Newton's laws of physics, this guy was doing alchemy. This guy was into this stuff. And back in those days, every man and his dog was writing about alchemy and magic. Magic, magic, magic. And most of them that were writing about magic, at the start of the book, it says, I wrote this book about magic, but I absolutely do not believe in magic, sir. How dare you? Is that why you spend all this time making a magic book then? And collating, grimoires. I always say this. There was one of them spent 7 years making a gigantic magic book. And you're like, well, and then if you actually stack up how many people have written about magic versus how many people have written about physics, how many people have written about biology, how many people have written about toxicology, how many people have written about geology. If you stack them all up, right, on a graph, magic's by far the most written about topic in all of science. By far. It makes everything else look like it's a giant compared to everyone else, the stack of paper. You stack it all up. Geography get this much, biology get this much. It's way up off the graphs, off the charts. So everybody's been writing about this magical stuff and alchemical stuff, these esoteric things. But now it's getting thrown out all the time. And now we're getting unprecedented censorship. And even scientists can't talk about mainstream science to each other. It's got that bad. So I don't know. But Isaac Newton, for centuries, some of the world's greatest geniuses, this from discovermagazine.com, For centuries, some of the world's greatest geniuses struggled in secret to turn base materials into gold. In a sense, they succeeded. In their relentless quest, they unlocked some of nature's greatest secrets, referring to, developing chemistry from that. So, I don't know. Anyway, coming up to break time, so we're gonna have another quick break, and then we'll finish up this show, last half hour on Eggs and Minds podcast with me, your incredibly famous host, Liam Martin. We're back in just a minute.
To begin at the beginning. It is spring, moonless night in the small town, starless and Bible black, the cobble streets silent and the hunched quarters and rabbit's wood limping invisible down to the slow black, crow black, fishing boat bobbing sea. The houses are blind as moles, though moles see fine tonight in the snouting velvet dingles, or blind as Captain Cat there in the muffled middle by the pump and the town clock. The shops in mourning, the welfare hauling, and all the people of the lulled and dumbfound town are sleeping now. Hush, the babies are sleeping, the farmers, the fishers, the tradesmen and pensioners, cobblers, schoolteacher, postman and publican, fast and slow asleep. The undertaker and the fancy woman, drunkard, dressmaker, preacher, policeman, the wet-foot cocker women, and the tidy wives. Young girls lie bedded soft or glide in their dream with rings and trousseaux, bridesmaided by glowworms down the aisles of the organ-playing wood. The boys are dreaming wicked, or of the bucking ranches of the night and the jolly Rogered sea. And the anthracite statues of the horses sleep in the fields, and the cows in the byres, and the dogs in the wet-nosed yards, and the cats nap in the slant corners, or lope, sly, streaking and wheedling on the one cloud of the roofs. You can hear the dew falling and the hushed town breathing. Only your eyes are unclosed to see the black and folded town vast and slow asleep.
Citizens of the galaxy, it's time to talk about a very serious matter. Are you prepared for an alien invasion? It may seem like something out of a sci-fi movie, but the threat may be very real. And that's why the Galactic Alliance is here to help. With our state-of-the-art technology and top-of-the-line defense systems, we're ready to take on any extraterrestrial threat that comes our way. But we can't do it alone. We need your help, citizens of the galaxy. So if you see something suspicious, say something. Report any strange activity to your local Galactic Alliance outpost immediately. And if you want to be extra prepared, sign up for our Alien Defense Training Program. Learn how to use a laser blaster, navigate through space, and communicate with alien species. Who knows? You might even make some new alien friends along the way. So remember, stay vigilant, stay prepared, and together we can keep our galaxy safe. A public service announcement from the Galactic Alliance.
Hi, this is Liam Martin of the Exile Minds podcast, and you're listening to the network that never stops seeking Trouble Minds Radio, KUEP, digital broadcasting. Welcome back to the show, Exile Minds podcast. With me, your very famous host, Liam Martin, aka the Mighty Rohan, here today, episode number 52, talking about the ley lines and the Becker Hagens grid, trying to bridge the realms of the mystic, esoteric, and the sciences. And yeah, and I think we're doing quite well so far. I think there's a lot to this. So for next, because talking frequencies, I mentioned some of these Gothic cathedrals in England seem to be following a line. And there's like a spiritual place to go to in the right kind of meditative mindset, mindfulness mindset. You've got stone structures that often have crystalline structure within there. They're very resonant. They're meant to be acoustic. Yeah. For the speakers, and also the elusive mysteries, and that famous is it a place in Turkey? I'm going to butcher this. Denikia or something like that. It's a place like something like Denikia or Deniki, something along those lines in Turkey. Just Google it, get on a browser, and say like underground city in Turkey or in the mountain. And basically they carve these caves, intricate cave system where I think they said they could have fit tens of thousands of people and animals in there. And they thought maybe they hid in there because of invaders or natural disasters and stuff. But it's got this place in the middle. So they've got all these caves all over in the mountain, all down, like, tunnels everywhere and little rooms for people. But it's one spot. It's like the priestess room. And if you stand in that one spot and speak, you can be heard in every single part of the cave. Just that one spot. It's been somehow, they've made it so the acoustic properties, once it's finished, are going to emanate from that one spot. It's going to be the best spot to speak from. I don't know how they figured that out, but I think that's a fantastic fact. I mean, it's crazy enough that they built this thing. It's a real find, but to have that acoustic property, where there's a spot to be the speaker spot, where you've got natural bounce and acoustic, how they measured that out? And you got a tunnel it, so it's not just random tunnels. It looks a bit like, let's put one here, put one there, but it's not. They're made like that, so the acoustics coming out from there is perfect for everywhere. I bet wicked to have a rave in there, isn't it? To have one of the DJ decks right in the center. Oh man, we need to go. We need to go check that out, man. Turkey relatively liberal when it comes to a partying. They'd love that. But anyway, talking of acoustics and music there, that's what we're going to look at next. So let's check this out. So I want to dive into cymatics now, because I think the way this goes, I think these ley lines are on, I think that this is legit and they're on certain spots and the frequency comes into it, I think. And this is a bit I'm going to present next before we finish the show up. So first, I just want to show for the video viewers. For the radio, I might have to mute it, just kind of describe it, because this guy's going to play a tone like a singing bowl. It's got these rubber mallets and this black table, and it's just going to rub these rubber mallets on it of various sizes, okay, on this metal tabletop. And in the center, well, not right in the center, it's put 4 piles to make a square. It's put some sand on there. I think it's magnetic sand. I'm going to guess it is. And then one of them's yellow, one pile's red, one pile's blue. So the bottom right corner's blue, bottom left corner's green, top left is yellow, top right is red. So it's got these little piles of sand on this table. Now just watch what happens for the video viewers, and I'll try and describe it for the radio. Watch what happens just when it causes vibration on the table to this pile of sand. If you haven't seen it, you'll be in for a real treat. This is from Japanese artist Kenichi Kanazawa. Kenichi Kanazawa. And this is just an artistic thing to show you visually, sort of thing. So it's like, but the fact that it happens from sound, it's like, what the hell? So let me just play it. I'm rambling on. Let's do this then. So this is an example of the tone he's going to make. I'll let you hear it a bit and then I'll mute it if it gets a bit much. Okay, so you got this tone going on, and what it's done is it's changed. It's made those piles of sand spread out, and they made triangle shapes with rounded edges, with rounded corners. Yeah, the tone's still going. And so just emanated out and made perfect, like 4 quarters, like 4 petals. And they've kept the sand doesn't mix together. So as he uses a different mallet now, making a different tone. I think it's a smaller one. And now the outer petals is now bowing inwards, which changes the petal shape. And so now it looks more like, like a sunshine with rays coming off. It's all spiky now. so that what was a nice smooth petal outline turned into spikes, and they're all evenly spaced out as well, which is amazing. Now it's got a really big mallet, that's low tone, and now those spikes are starting to turn more like they're going closer and closer inwards and turning like kind of into mushrooms. And now the whole shape in the middle was all emanated to the side to make all to the edges. Now we've got a perfect circle, but the sands haven't. They're still stayed in place. The sands haven't mixed together. You still got a clear yellow, red, blue, and green area. It's just a nice circle with like incredibly short, wide mushrooms on the edges. This is nuts. This is crazy. So I thought that was pretty cool. So if you're fortunate enough to see stuff like that, there's lots of cymatics you can kind of look up, and you can. I mean, the sound is just different tones and stuff, but yeah, I thought that was pretty amazing myself. So I thought that was pretty cool. And so the science of cymatics, that comes in again, it can get even more complicated because he's just playing one tone, just rubbing a mallet on there, right? So what happens if you use a frequency generator and use lots of tones? And I found one in this, there's a documentary called The Science of Cymatics. So we'll have a look at this next. And like I say, I'll definitely have to mute it on this one because the tones are pretty high and not so great. So let's have a look at this one then. Because this is like, I'm saying, we're saying maybe these ley lines in this Becker Hagens grid is indicating how the continents are formed, is something to do with it. I'm saying it might be because of frequency, because with frequency, you can make sand move into all kinds of crazy ways, different mediums and water, and they do all kinds of crazy stuff with sound. I'll just play some examples for the video viewers, but just using sound, I'll give you an idea of the kind of tones they're using.
Exciting crystal is attached to the upper corner of the plate.
So here's this guy explaining it.
We use sand and lycopodium. The lycopodium moves to the center of the fields and takes up circular shapes. The sand forms the lines. Each material has its own special way of behaving.
So as this tone's playing, you're getting these like kind of strange, like
lycopodium alone,
interconnected shapes that look a bit like cells. Changing the tone is
transition to a mobile flowing phase.
Yeah, they're like flowing together. It warped them and then they all start moving. Or some parts start moving, but they're maintaining the shape though. That's the strange thing.
Back again to the figure.
And then back to, shape that looks like a teddy bear a little bit.
The sonorous figures represent stationary waves, but now we can also observe moving waves. Yeah. Here, the sand is flowing in a current.
It's like they were just staying in 2D shapes at first, but now some bits are starting to move. And it looks like blood going through arteries and stuff. We're doing little loop-the-loops and things. And then connecting up to other ones. It's like it's a system. Just from these tones, it's making different mediums like water and oil and sand kind of move around.
When the wavelengths are short, these currents produce a rotary effect.
Yeah, rotating.
Areas become defined in which the particles are actually rotating.
And this one's amazing. The road is a black background with some very like white and a little bit of red in there, swirling little mass things. So they look like galaxies. They're like galaxies swirling around. And you can see how one of them is kind of feeding off to another one. And that's just pushing some of it away onto another galaxy. It's like crazy. So you've got this rotation. So they're like bubbling up, foaming up, and then moving around. The outer shells making a circle orbits all the way around.
Now we produce two notes with frequencies which are so related as to cause a beat.
Just two notes.
The note seems to throb, and by using the method we have chosen,
got these waves
this
that are
phenomenon
moving now,
of beat or interference
like on water,
can be rendered visible. The figure sways to and fro. The figure pulsates.
But then you add another tone, and then you get in the wiggling of the like water. But then it takes its big peak is very periodic, so the waves are like pulsing. Like, whereas normally, water's just flowing, doing what it is, or getting blown by the wind a bit. It does whatever, doesn't it? But now this is making an obvious pulse, like a hobby. It's crazy. I think there's so many examples of it. And there's some crazy
The
ones here.
picture has changed completely.
With more complicated
Now
tones, you're
we
getting
are
textured
exciting
patterns.
fluids.
And it's like, oh my
Under
God.
vibration,
I think,
a layer of
I think you
turpentine
get the idea with the video
forms a
stuff.
regular lattice work.
So we'll take that off now. I think you're getting the idea with, but yeah, you're getting textured features and movement. And it's like, oh my God. So the certain tones can do just about anything. There's some amazing things. Some things look like it's made a tone. One tone has made it in the shape of what looks like a vertebrae. And you're like, what? And now it's like a vertebrae. It's like doing weird, like it's moving along, but then there's a ripple going down it, which looks like the vertebrae twisted. You know, like a snake might move. And you're thinking, oh my God. Now some of these things look a bit like ghosts and orbs with lightning flashes coming past. You know, it's like these like sort of like orb-likey things, but if an orb was made out of scribbles, scribbling lines, so it's more got spiky edges. It's like there's some crazy stuff. It's really worth watching this. And there's a bit where it shows you in a big pot of sand, and it starts making like kind of hills and stuff and pushing peaks up, make it so you've got different like topographical features on the sand. That's the one I found most impressive because they were able to sort of like make hills, and you know, like you imagine lava coming up out of the ground to make a bit of a hill. It's doing that kind of thing. And I think that's amazing with the frequencies. So you should just be able to do it with frequencies. And so, I mean, and so then the next bit, I mean, I couldn't really, obviously this land, the idea of the Earth's land masses following these polygonal shapes is a bit controversial. Obviously land masses get changed by tectonic plates. There's geological processes that take place. The shape of the Earth's continents, such as the tectonic plates, volcanic activity, erosion, yeah, and other natural forces are explained within the framework of established scientific principles. Yeah, once you've got a landmass there, I get it. Once you've got a landmass there, wind's going to erode it to a certain amount, and you can calculate it. I get that, but I'm talking about where did that original landmass big blob first come from, and its rough shape, and then the erosion. Do you know what I mean? What I'm saying is there was probably a lot more on the grid, and then things have eroded it, and things have moved around a bit, and so when some bits are off a bit, it's kind of, you know, it's because of the natural processes that we have already established and the scientific principles that are already established, and some of them, you know, natural processes like weathering. I get it, but I'm thinking the basic shape is coming from higher geometry stuff, and I think they know about it, and I think that's why it's all over the symbolism. It's all over the magic and the alchemical shape stuff, the platonic solids. They know about these shapes. They know about these geometries, I think, and they're using it. And of course, if Saturn and Jupiter's having certain geometries that represent that planet, we're going to have some as well. Or these geometries, these hyperdimensional physics things we can be applied to ourselves. Maybe houses are supposed to be tetrahedrons. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Sedana's got it all right. This is what I'm getting at. So yes. So next then, so on the screen for the video viewers, we've got a picture of Adam's calendar, and I've typed in the browser search stone circles. Okay, and the reason this comes into place because if we look at the shapes of stone circles, I mean, there's one of them that's in the shape of you know, the peace sign that we see. Although there's stuff to be said about that because I think it's supposed to be a tree, really. I think the peace sign's inverted, you know, living in the upside down. It's supposed to be the way around. It's supposed to be a tree. But yeah, you've got these stone circles that seem there's probably millions estimated because they found hundreds within certain areas. Just keep finding them all the way across South Africa. So they then extrapolated it out because it's such a big landmass and there's so goddamn many of them. These stone circles that they're estimating might number in the millions of stone circles, at least hundreds of thousands of stone circles, right? And they're not perfectly made. They're not in perfect circles, and the lines in the middle aren't in exactly some, you know, even proportions, like you're dividing up land. They're a bit higgledy-piggledy, as I like to say. They're a little bit kind of like random. But that's the curious thing about these stone circles, because especially with Adam's calendar, that one in particular has been heavily studied. Adam's calendar. Now we're not talking stone circles where people have placed big blocks. This is why they're interested. They're made out of loads and loads of small, just rocks, just loads and loads of little rocks. Okay, and every single one of them, Michael Tellinger gets the shout out for this because every single one of them, he's done the study on it. They're all hornfels, and they're all really acoustic. You can basically grab a bit of hornfels stone and just hit it with another bit of hornfels stone, and it'll make a nice tone, like a xylophone, depending on its shape, depending on how big it is. But they're all roughly like kind of oval shaped. So it's like washed long stones, and some of them are cone shaped. And I think it's significant because that can then focus the sound. And I think they're using frequency technologies. I think they're using sound technology. I think the new stuff. And I think these tons and tons of stone circles, which science says, oh, it's just, corrals for your cattle and stuff. But they haven't got entrances. They haven't got specific doorways or opening, like if you had a corral, you'd have one gate opening, wouldn't you? The rest of it you might want short, but you'd have an open entrance and an exit, wouldn't you? To get in and out of it. And then, they're not forts. They're just loads and loads and loads of them, and they're all placed a bit random. And there's so many, because they're made with loads of little stones. It takes ages to individually place all of them, loads of rocks and boulders and stones. It just takes so long. So the idea is, and Michael Tellinger thinks they're using sound, because having the studies into Adam's calendar, there's terahertz of sound coming out of the ground. You can't hear it, but they measured it. It's basically Adam's calendar is screaming straight up in the air, right? At terahertz. And he was saying, if only we could grab this sound and turn it directly into electrical energy, you'd have tons of energy, So the idea then becomes that these stone circles haven't been actually physically placed there necessarily, each one by hand. Because if you're using acoustic levitation processors, then you get, and you'll know, I just want to put this shape for the video viewers. There's a thing called a cavity magnetron that's in your microwave. And some of these stone circles are very, very, they're taking the same shape as the cavity magnetron. So what's a cavity magnetron? Let's talk about the magnetron. Ask almost any electrical engineer, except an antique collector, if there are any vacuum tubes in their house, and the answer will likely to be somewhere between, you have to be kidding, or of course. Not since they got rid of CRT TVs. Well, think again. If you have a microwave oven in your house, you do have a vacuum tube, a magnetron. What's a magnetron? It's the first famous vacuum tube ever. Right up there with the first amplifying vacuum tube. The triode invented, it's called the triode, invented by Lee de Forester in 1906. The physics of the electromagnetics of a magnetron are complicated. It uses strong external magnetic fields, which influences the flow of electrons in the resonant circular cavity, right, to develop tens of hundreds of watts of frequencies well into the gigahertz. That's what they were measuring at Adam's calendar, gigahertz, and I think it might have been going into terahertz, but at least gigahertz, just screaming out. So it's frequency stuff. That's how your microwaves using this to get the microwaves. So the electrons, basically, this is a cavity magnetron is a circle, right? It's a big lump of metal, yeah, and so it's just like a donut, but it's got all these holes kind of drilled out of it that partially they're drilled in between the center. Okay, let me say it like this: the central hole, the holes that it's got holes drilled around it like petals. Okay, so it's like connected to the middle. So the middle cavity has these little circular recesses. Okay, it's got these circular recesses that are radial. They're going all the way around, and it forces the electrons to have to take a longer path. Instead of going around the inside circle of the donut, they have to go into these little recesses. All right. So it kind of slows them down, and it kind of makes them have a certain kind of movement, a radial movement. And then that's what's getting the frequencies up. So it's a bit complicated, but these are the same kind of shapes as the Adam's calendar things. And we're talking frequencies. So it looks as if these stone circles have ended up there because of certain frequencies on that spot. That side have ended up that shape. So it's almost like someone's been able to use frequencies and match the frequencies of a location. And the idea is that those stones probably floated in place and settled in the natural spot where they want to be. You know? And that's why I'm saying, like with this Becker Hagens grid, it sort of forms the shape of the continents a little bit. And I think because there's a hyperdimensional physics thing going on with other planets, obviously we've got one. And I think this is the smoking gun of what it's about, why certain shapes are significant. Okay. So that's just the sort of basic premise of what I've been trying to present today on this Ley Lines and Becker Hagens grid episode, an Examines podcast. So this is how I'm bridging the realms, subtitle, between the science and the esoteric, because it's not esoteric, it's high science, it's high physics, and more complicated shapes going on. And, you know, Plato, these shapes are important, right? The Platonic solids, the basic shapes are important because they're the structure upon which all of reality is placed. Yeah. We've got geometry. We just can't get away from it. So what's the basic geometries? You know, the circles and the squares, and then what's the 3D versions of those? Circle, sphere, and then you get and then triangle. That's you're getting into your pyramids, your tetrahedrons, and then your pyramids. Then, aren't you? So, and then onto your bigger and bigger shapes. You know, more and more complicated shapes, and then the spaces in between, like with Zen, that matters as well. So let's look at this. Let's look at vector equilibrium. So the vector equilibrium, this is the most stable possible shape because it's taking forces from every direction equally. The lines are all the same length and every vector's covered. So it's this sort of super duper shape that Buckminster Fuller come up with, the vector equilibrium shape. But importantly, it's like it appears in some sacred geometry. It appears in stuff, but it's in the space in between where you get to see the vector equilibrium in the gaps. So a shape might make a shape where it's interconnected shape, and then suddenly the vector equilibrium is the spaces in between, right in the middle. So they know about this geometry stuff. They know it. Lovely little picture for the video viewers there. So there you go. We've got the octagon there. Yep. Oh no, it's a hexagon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, the hexagon again. So in the hexagon, you can fit a pyramid pointing north and the pyramid pointing south, essentially, right? But then you can do that into the corners to all the points. So you get all these pyramids lined over each other, and then you get this complex like hexagonal square, you know, this vector equilibrium shape. But that same vector equilibrium shape, I'm pretty sure that's the shape that they used in a Contact with Jodie Foster when they make that machine. Contact film. I know for a fact they use a hexagon. Film, and I type Contact film machine. Let's just hit images, and hopefully the machine, hopefully we'll see a close up. Here we go, got a close up picture for people on the video. Can we get right in on that? Oh, it's not quite showing you all the framework. You can get a bit of an idea. But yeah, she's in they've got her in a spherical capsule, but it's got this frame around it. And that frame is pretty much in the vector equilibrium shape, or it's hexagonal. Yeah, they haven't quite put the thing on yet on this image, but they've not quite put it together. Let's see if there's another image. It's the actual capsule bit, not the machine itself, but that's concentric rings. That's a bit of Ezekiel's wheel machine, incidentally. But the actual pod that they put her in, that's a circle, right, which is curves, isn't it, with all these straight line frame around it, making a hexagon. So they're using 3 different geometry. They're using the smooth stuff, which is like that's feminine, and the angular stuff, which is masculine. So in the sphere and straight lines are the opposite, aren't they? Right? And it's got that sacred geometry embedded in it. So they know about this stuff, know about it all day long. All day long, they know about it. One last effort at trying to get that picture. But yeah, just go and look it up. Go and look it up. Like I say, it's probably seen it. It's films from 1997. So you ain't seen it by now, I don't know where you've been. It's a great film, really great film. But anyway, time is against us again. These shows just seem to fly by. Maybe I just like talking to myself. But no, it's a time perception thing. But anyway, yeah, 2-hour shows from now on. We'll keep doing this, so to make sure we can get through everything, get a good blast on it. But alas, time's against us. So that's enough from me on the Exile Minds podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks for joining us, Pat. I think Pat's gone now, but Daryl, James in the background there. Oh, James had a comment there. Wonder if enough vibrations through space can have effects on planets similar to the grains of sand. Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at, James. Planets are interconnected. But anyway, yes, I've got to go. Thanks for Jess tuning in there. Be there on Monday. Thanks for listening, Daryl. Liz, thanks for the sound check earlier. And right, I better get going then before I run over time. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Exile Minds podcast. Me, and Martin. I'll catch you Monday on the Jess Rogue show. That's where you'll see me next. And then Tuesday back on here. See you then.
But they conceal it from us. And I'm extremely angry that the people in this country who say they deplore this sort of thing have fallen silent. It's being condoned by the European Union and Washington as events unfold. I got Senator Stern here. Shall we swing over and look at some of the drawings? And when you say the Western countries will bear some responsibility, in what sense do they bear responsibility?
They should play.
Look at it through Moscow's eyes. Since the Clinton administration in the 1990s, the U.S.-led West has been on a steady march toward post-Soviet Russia.
This is a weapons demonstration.
It began with the expansion of NATO in the 1990s, which then further expanded NATO all the way to Russia's borders. Then came the funding of what are euphemistically called NGO.
I don't know if you know this, but I don't speak Russian! This is not what we agreed to. They promised me suits and they promised control.
Everything.
This is not what I wanted.
The political action group funded by the West, operating inside Russia. Then came the decision to build missile defense installations along Russia, allegedly against Iran, a country which has neither nuclear weapons nor any missiles to deliver them. Then comes American military outpost in the former Soviet neighborhood of Georgia during the War of 2008. And now the West is at the gates of Ukraine. That's the picture, as Moscow sees it. And it's rational, it's reasonable, it's hard to deny. Let's ask ourselves this: who precipitated this crisis?
Anyway, carry on.
You're listening to Troubled Minds. Join us as we discuss an upside-down world that nobody seems to notice.
Are you looking for a way to connect with your spirituality? Look no further than Spirit Magica Crystal Shop. They have a wide variety of crystals, from amethyst to obsidian and more, including crystal packs, unique deals, and amazing customer service. The products are made with the highest quality materials and are backed by their satisfaction guarantee. Spirit Magica Crystal Shop are committed to helping you find the tools and resources you need to live a magical life. So what are you waiting for? Visit Spirit Magica today. Use coupon code Troubled Minds, all one word, at checkout for 25% off your first purchase.
Largest underground facility for reptilians in the United States.
I just feel like a clawy hand in my heart, just sort of grabbing and scratching.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.